In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a little bit of a look at the tropics, the overall pattern, but I do want to dive into a bit of what we've been talking about starting yesterday, really, which is a overall cooler pattern that is expected to move in here in the medium to long range. The models have been very consistent on this, and a lot of you are excited about the prospect of potentially an early start to fall, or at least an early fall type pattern, which I'm excited about, something like that as well. So we're going to be discussing that today, really going into it. We do have the long range guidance as well that we're going to take a look at, so there is a lot to discuss. Let's take a look at the world and let's zoom in, because we do finally have the national hurricanes that are getting on board with our Gulf system that we've been discussing here on the channel for probably a week now. Now, as we take a look, we can see this yellow zone sitting here. Ironically, just yesterday I was saying I don't know why there isn't at least a 10% chance of development with this thing. We now have a 10% chance of development, so it was a bit prophetic of me. We do see 2-day, 7-day period, both are at 10%. This is expected to basically move out of the Gulf within the 2 to 3 day range, so makes sense that the 7 and 2-day range would be exactly the same. Let's see what the model guidance shows as we just get a lot of storminess over Florida here through this afternoon and evening, mostly within the yellow area of potential development by the time we're reaching 11 a.m. tomorrow on the 24th, which will be Thursday. So we do see this area of storminess here. It's going to have a very short window to develop, and that's likely why we sit at a low 10% chance of development. As we keep going, we do see it starts to get its act together a little bit as it's reaching into that northwestern corner of the Gulf, bringing some impacts to Louisiana and the Texas coastline here, as you can see. And by time we just move a little bit further, we see that that one does bring some storminess to southern Texas, mostly south of Houston. I would say Houston and south. And it's fully moved out by about the 26th. So again, day 3 approximately. So let's go ahead and move over to Weather Bell, where we're going to discuss this, the overall pattern, and then dive into those early fall-like temperatures that are expected to move in. First off, taking a look at the storminess here, we do see that same cluster nearby Florida and really over the Gulf already here. So you've got a couple areas of storminess here. We'd be watching for it to all come together, and it kind of does here on this European model by tomorrow, kind of late morning time frame. This is 11 a.m. on tomorrow, Thursday the 24th, sitting right below Louisiana. We do see some thunderstorms around for the Midwest as well. It's going to be something to think about as well, and that really fires up by the time we're reaching the evening hours. We see all the way from Canada down through, there's a bit of a frontal boundary here extending all the way to the Central Rockies. So we're watching the Great Lakes, Midwest, Plains, and even some of the Rockies states for heavier rainfall, potential for thunderstorms, and even the potential for severe weather. A lot of our tropical interest will be lying still south of Louisiana. As we keep going towards Friday afternoon, it's moving towards the kind of like just to the south of that Texas-Louisiana border. As it continues to trek westward, we continue to see this moving on shore by the time we're reaching maybe Saturday morning on the 26th. So again, right between days 2 and 3. And that does go ahead and dissipate. By the time we're looking at Sunday on the 27th, we do see mostly storminess closer to that Canadian border. So we're talking mostly the north central and northeastern states. There is some activity here across the deep south as well, but much more to the north. For Monday on the 28th, we have a pretty decent, it's really weak, but I mean, it's decent for this time of year, low to the south of the Hudson Bay. Little bit of maybe a cold front trying to get going, and that's enough to bring some storminess to the south. But really, there's more of a dragging cold front here, which is going to unleash a lot of this cooler air into the central and eastern states. Funny enough, if you're a long-time viewer, not even long time, but like just the last year, last fall and really around this time of year, we started to watch these lows dive to the south of the Hudson Bay and north of the Great Lakes. So a lot of them would move through this area and bring this dragging cold front. And in the following days after this low would move into this zone, we would see cooler air in the east. So maybe moving into another fall and winter that is themed Similarly, this is a sign of that, I would say, because by the time we're reaching Tuesday, we see the beginning of that trough developing. We see warm air rushing up the west coast. We call this a positive P&A. So we get this ridge in the west, slight trough in the east behind that low, and still some storminess behind for the northeast and mid-Atlantic, even some down here for the plains and Midwest. By the time we're reaching Wednesday on the 30th, we fully see the jet stream doing this diving pattern into the east where cooler air is becoming more abundant. Again, Midwest plains seeing some storminess. Also, the deep south has some regular thunderstorms. It's kind of a daily occurrence this time of year. Let's keep going further, though. Thursday on the 31st, we talked about this yesterday, but we've got this squeeze between the cold and the warmth. So the warmth is pushing from the south, and this effect is the strongest this time of year when we're in the peak of the summer, essentially. Or better yet, like we talked about yesterday, we're actually beginning that descent for my area in Hampton Roads of Virginia. July 23rd is the first day where we actually lower our average temperature of the year. So we go from, technically maybe the beginning of January, we're still lowering, but you get the point of the season. And now we're beginning our descent. We go from an average of 90 degrees on the 22nd. That lasts for weeks beforehand as well. And we drop down to 89 for the July 23rd timeframe. And most everywhere else in the central and eastern states, that's going to be occurring within this week or two, at least by August 1st. Everywhere east of the Rockies for the most part. Maybe there's some exceptions, but they will have lowered from their peak temperature down at least 1 degree. So we are beginning that descent into the fall, technically. The name fall is pretty fitting as well. We're falling in temperatures, and also the leaves are falling. We see this squeeze, though. I want to get back on track here. This squeeze is creating this line, this boundary between these two areas. And we're going to create a horizontal graphic of it real quickly so I can explain this better. But let's say this is from the north. This is from the south. We're using our imagination here, so I apologize. And what happens is, the ground's down here. And that push from the south, push from the north is occurring. And what happens is this forces the winds upward in this area. We call this lift. And this lift is what fires up lines of thunderstorms oftentimes. So that squeeze is creating a lot of these thunderstorms to develop along that area of, squeeze or conflict or whatever you want to call it. So we're going to be watching that area come Thursday the 31st, which isn't the long range. It's more of the medium range. Typically, this is before day 10, so we typically consider this the medium range. So we're going to be watching for this effect. I'm pretty confident we're going to see something along these lines. And we can see the cold is actually winning out with the warmth, which is considerable for this time of year. Typically, the warmth is going to have a much easier time fighting back this cold for this time of year, but we're seeing the cold just dominate because this area of boundary is moving further southward, which is again indicative of that cold push being a bit stronger than the warmer push from the south. We could still see thunderstorms around in that boundary further south now, even have some Gulf flow bringing some moisture and thunderstorms around from the Gulf. And our jet stream now, a lot more, I'll draw that a little better, but this is a lot more aggressive than we were seeing just a couple of days prior. This is Friday, August 1st. Really aggressive trough in the east there. And that lasts through Saturday the 2nd. Still see that boundary with thunderstorms Sunday the 3rd. That boundary is now along the Gulf Coast and then into the southeast coast like Georgia and South Carolina there. Still a ridge in the west, trough in the east here. Monday on the 4th, same thing. And it really lasts through the model run. Still, by the time we're looking at the August 7th time frame, we still see a little bit of a drop in here. It's not as intense by this point on this model run, but still seeing it. I will say there's a low over the Hudson Bay here, and it has another cold front. This is very long range. This is about 15 days out, so take it with a grain of salt. But if we see a follow-up cold front with more intense thunderstorms, that could pull down the cool air again. We do see a lot of activity off the southeast and in the Gulf, and that could spell some more tropical threats. Obviously, as we're moving into August, we're getting more and more favorable for tropical activity, so we will continue to monitor this as well. Let's look at the total percent. Well, actually, here we go. This is the probability of tropical depression. I wanted to show this because we showed it yesterday. we still stand at a 30 to 40% chance of at least tropical depression status in this area, according to the European ensemble model. An ensemble model is 20 to 30 different models put together, and it takes the mean average. But when we use the tool this way, a probability way, it's really counting the percentage of members within that ensemble that are showing tropical depression status. So we are seeing 30 to 40% of them show tropical depression status. It's a pretty interesting tool. Here's the total precipitation though, and we do see a lot for really now. We have this area of exception in here where there is lower amounts of precipitation for West Texas and Southern Texas. But outside of that, we really have decent amounts for most of the Midwest, Plains, Gulf Coast, and Southeast there. And again, there's a little bit of an exception in here, which is a little bit lower as well. But let's look at the anomalies, and this will show us where it's above or below average for this time of year on a 2-week period. We do see above average amounts within the Plains and Midwest, especially the upper Midwest, and really for Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, even a little bit of South Dakota, we are well above average, maybe twice the amount of your average precipitation falling over the next 15 days, according to this model. Same thing for this area impacted by this potential tropical cyclone. Even without it developing, we do see high amounts of precipitation in there as well. But again, most everywhere else, especially the immediate eastern states, are actually a little bit below average for the next 15 days. Here's the previous 20 days of temperatures, and we've been really, really warm for most of the Plains and Midwest, as well as especially the eastern states. We've even had warmth for some of the West, cooler for some of the West, and this has created more of a neutral PNA look, which stands for Pacific North American Oscillation, or Pacific North American Oscillation, and we're really watching for warmer or cooler temperatures along that western seaboard of North America. The reason it's neutral is because, again, there's some cool, some warmth at this point, or looking back actually for the past 20 days. Very interesting, but let's talk about the upcoming temperatures. Right now we have a negative PNA, much cooler temperatures for the west, and this has encouraged a lot of heat for the central states, and a lot of that is headed eastward as well. It's a little cooler here right now, but that is going to change over time. We do see more of a typical negative PNA pattern take over by the 25th, just a couple of days from now, where again, warmth is just really, really abundant here in the east and central states. A lot of the comments that I've seen, not a lot, but a couple, has been like, no, we're expecting a heat wave here in the Midwest or Ohio Valley or Northeast over the next couple of days. And that's true. If I'm saying there's cooler temperatures coming and you're not paying attention to the time frame that I'm discussing, I don't know what to say. Usually people are going based off of the thumbnail or whatever, because I can't put all the information just on the thumbnail. But just because cooler air is coming doesn't mean that hotter air isn't coming before that. And that is what we're looking at. A heat wave right before it. We're looking at Friday the 25th here. Very, very hot through Saturday, Sunday, really the whole weekend. But then Monday, something interesting happens. Monday on the 28th. This is about 5 days from now. Warmer air starts to develop along the west, and we call this a positive PNA. And this encourages, because this warm push is happening up here in the west, it's causing a spillover effect with this cooler air. It has to go somewhere, so it's spilling over into the central and eastern states. We're not seeing it yet. There's a little bit of a lag. There's still very hot temperatures in the east here, but we can see the beginning core of that air mass moving down. By the time we're looking at Tuesday, it's getting a little closer. Wednesday the 30th also, and it's worth noting that this positive PNA becomes more dominant over time. Wednesday the 30th, it's looking really, really healthy. Still, the deep south seeing warmer temperatures. The north has started to see the cooler air move in though. Again, this is all relative to your average though. So South Dakota is below their average for this time of year, and South Carolina is above average for this time of year for their average. So keep that in mind. This isn't just saying that South Dakota is cooler than South Carolina. It's all relative to your average. As we keep progressing, though, we see this cooler air does become more dominant to the point where August 3rd here, which is in the long range, we still have a bit of a positive PNA. The cooler temperatures, or at least neutral, are reaching the deep south, and a lot of your more middle and northern areas here in the central and eastern states are well below average here by early August. And that sticks around all the way through the end of the model run. It becomes a little less dominant here, but we still see this area looking cooler according to the European ensemble model. Now, as promised, let's move into the longer range version of that model. This is the European extended ensemble model. So this one goes out further, and we are looking at 7-day periods here. So here's the 23rd through 30th. Here's the 30th through the 6th, and we start to see a lot more of that cooler air in the north central and northeastern states. And then the 6th through the 13th, still trending cooler here in the east. And then here's a good lesson. These ensemble models, as time goes on, we're going to do another graph on the screen here, just for instance. So let's say this is day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, and so on. Or maybe for making it easy, we'll do like day 1, day 5, day 10, and you get the point from that point on. As these individual ensemble models go on, they all kind of are a straight line. They all kind of agree with each other here, days 1 through 5. But then they start to split a little bit, right, as time goes on with their opinion. Between days 5 and 10, they're a little bit different, but still kind of the same idea. There's really like 30 members, so it's way different, but something like this. And then as we get to like day 20, they start to really spread out like crazy with different opinions, right, as time goes on. But we're taking the mean average of all of these opinions. So the day 1 through 5 looks very, very normal to a weather person. It looks like you might not even tell it's an ensemble model. It might look like one individual model. But as time goes on and they get different opinions, you start to get to a point where it's like, okay, it isn't even going to look like this. There isn't even a single model that shows exactly this. It's just the mean average, because they're all showing such different things, ends up looking this way. But there's not even a model calling for this, really. So we have to kind of just look for the signs. And the key thing that sticks out to me here that they do agree on is a positive PNA still being dominant. So even though we're not seeing a richly cool pattern in the east, I would have to imagine that most of the models that are more dominant with this positive PNA are showing a lot more cool air in the east than what this looks like. After we go to a certain point, we revert to something which I call averaged out, which means, you know, we're moving the model run. Here's the 8th, 10th, 20th, 31st of August. We go crazy with the range here, and it's not changing at all. Obviously, we know that's not going to happen. It's just these models have gone so crazy with different opinions that we're getting something that resembles more of just like what the average has been over the last 5 or 10 years, because there's a lot of data in these models, and a lot of it is recent data. So they almost revert back to something that looks average as of late. So I just wanted to educate you guys on that as well. But this model does call for cooler temperatures overall in the east up until at least the August 5th through 12th time frame. So it's going to be interesting to see if we close off July on a cooler note and we actually see a first half of August on a cooler note, because again, that descent into the fall is starting, and before you know it, we won't need below average temperatures for things to be cool once we're reaching late September and early October and so on. So you need these cooler than normal conditions for August to feel like September, but for September to feel like September, it's just got to be normal. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I've been rambling. This is what really gets me going about the weather, and you guys probably noticed that as we move into the fall and winter, I become a lot more passionate about what I'm talking about, because it gets me going, and it always has for the past, 10, 15 years. I've even been paying attention to the weather. So super cool stuff. I'm glad you guys are along for the journey. We've gotten a lot more views and subscribers recently. So if you've just subscribed, welcome to the channel. It's going to be an exciting 6, 7, 8 months ahead of us. I can't wait to, experience it with you guys. So be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.